Joe Biden. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know anything. Where am I? Oh no, I forgot to turn on the camera. I was actually in the bathroom. Um, Good morning, everyone. Beautiful, beautiful evening. Does anyone ever wake up every morning and realize that the world is, you know, dying? Just like Trump said, the world is gonna die. It's gonna die if Kamala wins. Absolutely wild circumstances we're living in right now. How's everyone doing? How is life? I'm just getting this video ready. No, I'm just saying that to be dumb. Not early morning. Actually, 11 p.m. American Eastern Time. I don't know why I said American. Hello, Alexandros, UT. Hope you're having a good Saturday night here in America. Land of the Trump. Okay, so gotta make sure all this audio is correct. I saw a couple of videos I wanted to look at. One was Hasan. I have not watched anything Hasan related in forever. But yeah, I'm stressed. I am stressed as well. Really thinking about the chaos of what's happening right now when it comes to information and AI and propaganda and how many people are falling so easily for it with little to no improvement over the past few years. It's really stressful thinking about where we're going to be in 10 to 15 years, but we have to keep hope in the fact that young people are getting older and becoming more engaged in politics, and young people voting are the only possible way that we're going to be able to survive as a human species. Human race. I don't know. What's the proper term? The human I don't know, radical humanism. But yeah, this is basically for clickbait and stuff. I don't think Hasan has any real world influence that matters necessarily. But yeah, people want to watch reactions to stuff like this, so I need to do it for views and clicks so I can get remonetized. Things are only going to get worse and worse. I agree. They are going to get worse. And I would not be... I think the correct statement is that we would be, I don't know, not shocked or surprised, really. But when Donald Trump or someone says, just like the UK, when they say America is being overtaken and white people will die, when they finally say we need to rise up with our militias and bring the guns out, that's what I'm most afraid of in conclusion, because the openness of the Nazi ideology, talking about our neighborhoods being changed beyond recognition right now, it's being openly discussed more proudly than it has been in probably 50 years with that kind of rhetoric. Before it was somewhat coded. So we coded it in the war on drugs and everything, and the criminal justice system. But right now we're just experiencing all out. Just they are saying that it's bad that non-white people are coming into America. There's many people actually saying this openly, which is frightening. I'm gonna turn my air conditioner on real quick because I'm getting a little steamy. 1 second before I start this. Thanks for coming to hang out. One moment. All right, awesome. Let me make sure this audio is good. Right? And guns. Didn't want to do
Kamala
that.
Harris's shocking new flip-flop when it comes to the border wall. You will not believe it. Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, audio seems good. Let me know if there's any issues, please. Recording this for YouTube video stuff. I'll try to check chat if you're watching this with me. Periodically, I haven't streamed in forever. Hoping to get some YouTube clips or segments out of this. If Trump doesn't win this election, then someone just as bad will win the next or next. See, the structural advantage with the Electoral College, it's interesting because we are having massive numbers of people passing away who believe in a certain ideology, and a lot of young people getting involved. We are kind of just like trying to keep things together as a country for at least 10 to 20 years, because I think there will be a big push in a much better direction. But I don't know if AI is already where it is. We're gonna need some radical progressions in society and technology, which I don't know if we have that in store without a massive shakeup. And it's scary to think about what that massive shakeup can possibly be. I have to move my camera for this, most likely, huh? Don't do that. All right, let me just move this up here. Welcome anyone who joins. If anyone watches this back, please drop a like. Gotta get into this. Speaking of really big, let's see. Did Hasan really get kicked out of the DNC? I don't think that was actually a thing that happened. I saw it was a story though. But speaking of big things happening in politics, Hasan usually has zero idea how to message or talk about anything considering like pragmatism in politics. So I'm gonna go through this video. I have not seen Hasan content in forever, but I get requests to look at it a lot. So we're gonna see how it is.
Vice President Kamala Harris's shocking new flip-flop when it comes to the border wall. You will not believe it. Vice President Kamala Harris now supports a border wall. She backs a plan to spend hundreds of millions of dollars.
Why is this a story? Because Republicans are playing catch up because they don't tune into the Hasan broadcast and subscribe at the top of the hour. I've been saying this for literally months. They're so stupid. I can't believe how stupid they are. Like, I've literally said this is such a gimme for the Republicans, the fact that they have a border wall funding bill that they are advocating for after calling the Republicans Nazis for years. They're dumb. That's why they're talking about it now. Stop being so angry and rude. I mean, one side is advocating for Hitlerian border policies, mass immigration, mass purge of migrants in this country to the tune of like 15 million, okay? And the other side is like, yeah, we got to build the wall that we were calling Republicans Nazis over. So what?
Okay, so Hitlerian border policy. I think this mimics a lot of messaging you hear with younger voters. So obviously, when we go through this topic, comparing them makes no sense. And Hasan is still doing this, which I'm really depressed about because he was doing this last time that I saw him. But yeah, Democrats are pushing for making undocumented immigrants and citizens of America, providing paths to citizenship. Donald Trump wants a mass deportation of 20 million people with the U.S. military going through our communities, and he wants to open up concentration camps for these individuals, separating parents from their kids and allowing kids to work in sweatshops in Alabama doing child labor. There is no comparison. Even with the hardest immigration bill that Democrats will sign into law, there is a zero comparison, even if it is neocon, even if it's far right, when it comes to, you know, being similar to George Bush or Ronald Reagan. It's obviously it's not that anyway. But still, when it comes to the border, everyone agrees the border needs to be more secure. Democrats are extremely better when it comes to humane practices. Not good. Not amazing, but extremely better. And we're looking for a path to citizenship. Right now, Republicans are talking about white people being replaced in America. And hey, if Democrats keep bringing in these immigrants, your neighborhoods will never be recovered. Your neighborhoods will never look the same. They're not even hiding it anymore, that they're just being openly anti-immigrant and everything. I'll let you know about that then, Cloud. Yeah, talking about poisoning the blood. But thank you for asking. Yeah, Donald Trump saying immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. This is setting the precursor. And I saw Stephen Miller, I think that's his name, the really creepy Nazi-looking guy. He was talking about how what's happening in the UK is going to happen in America. Therefore, we are going to fearmonger about immigrants. So white people get really mad about immigration and go on campaigns independently, independent militia campaigns, to pull random non-white people out of cars and try to arrest them and beat them up because they're told in the media that there's a danger with their communities being taken over. So they're literally they're just threatening the worst.
What am I supposed to do? Maybe if you subscribed and then see that, okay, I already ran the top of the hour ad break. Take a day off. I bet you're kicking yourself by not realizing that all of Kamala's right-wing positions are just weaker versions of their shit that they can do better, and now they're campaigning on it. Yeah. If only there was someone who was saying that that's a bad idea for quite some time now. If only. But now they are.
This was a project that
That's like the best image of the champagne socialist sitting back in their chair. And when you are a voting demographic that's not reliable, so young people and very progressive far left, when you're an unreliable voter demographic, Democrats are going to move to the middle because they realize you're not going to vote for us, so we're going to adapt more policies to bring Republicans over. And right now they probably should be doing that because we're fighting American fascism. We're not fighting just conservative or liberal or right or wrong or progressive versus whatever. We're fighting for the fundamental structure of civilization. Oh, I don't want to say that word. We can't say civilization because that's a dog whistle. We're fighting for the structure of democracy and liberal democracies in general. We're fighting against authoritarian rule. Donald Trump literally had a supporter attack the media at a rally and said, it's okay, he's one of us, he's one of us. They're not one of us. Trump is openly just calling for attacking. Trump is literally, I'm saying literally a lot, but Trump is a very small margin away from openly calling for attacking the media physically and killing liberals physically. And in Nazi Germany, we know that liberals and socialists were the first targets, and scholars and information and anti-intellectualism was a key point.
Harris once described this way.
This issue is about a vanity project for this president.
Right.
And it is a problem of his own making.
Right.
And listen, when I travel this country, folks have plenty enough problems that they need their president to focus on,
You know what?
instead of a wall. On the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them. We cannot continue to have an administration and a president of the United States who puts his vanity.
Any word on when the year of Hasan vindication video is coming? I mean, this is it. You're watching it every day. I'm actually kind of shocked that they didn't do this like a while back. Like, how did it take them this long to finally come with this strategy? Fox News is watching you. If they were, they would have cut this literally 2 months ago, 3 months ago. They would have cut this the moment that Joe Biden said he was going to do a right-wing border bill.
Projects ahead of the needs of the people of our country.
Well, no, because that would have put a spotlight on Donald Trump killing the border bill they did have. And all of this is refocusing on the fact that Democrats are still far better than Trump. Trump is trying to bring back laws from like 1900. I think Trump literally said we need more laws from like 1907 because the laws we have on the books now aren't tough enough. And we need more vicious practices to take care of these animals. That's the smug look right here of just like sitting back in your chair like, I'm so morally pure. I'm so correct. They would never understand it. Someone like me who's a part of real political change, they would never take my advice. I know the true pulse of America. I know the true pulse of swing states, Pennsylvania. My vast experience sitting in luxury cars and wearing $5,000 designer shirts is really going to give me the expertise needed to speak to swing voters in Pennsylvania. I'm so much better than them. I wash my hands of this. I wash my hands of all the dirty politics. I'm so much better. I have all the answers. They just don't like, oh, how dare they?
Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances, and I do support border security. And if we want to talk about that, let's do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Cloud. There's no force that will push them to a moderate position on the other side. The only thing that would push it to a more moderate position, and the only thing that allows us to focus on progressive change and progressive policy, is getting Donald Trump out of the picture. Because as long as Donald Trump is an existing political icon in America, we're not going to talk about healthcare policy. We're not going to talk about the cost of living. We're not going to talk about any real issues at all except stopping Donald Trump. We're not going to talk about foreign policy. We're not going to talk about Ukraine. We're not going to talk about Israel and Gaza. We're not going to talk about any of this stuff as long as Donald Trump's in the picture. Americans will not care about anything except the Donald Trump show. Getting him out of the picture means so much. Even the current topic of inflation and grocery costs being the number one issue is not matching reality. That is a completely manufactured point by the Trump campaign and right-wingers, because if you look at wages increasing and the purchasing power of Americans when it comes to groceries, things have not really increased so much in the grocery sector. But they did increase for things like medical costs and for housing. That's where American families are really, really, really struggling. But we can't have that conversation because everything's going to be dictated by the Donald Trump screaming show, and the media plays into it. If you watch the interview with Kamala and the interviewer was Bash, that was the worst interview I've ever seen in my life, with such high stakes. Well, not even stakes, but such high hype in general. The questions that were asked of Kamala Harris during that interview were absolutely ridiculous and unserious. Saying like, oh, so you agree with Bidenomics? Oh, by the way, Kamala, I finally have you for an interview after months and months. The most pressing thing I need to ask you is, Donald Trump said you're not actually black. And that's all she said. That was the question. Like, hey, but Tim Walz, by the way, did your wife... Did you really have your children through the exact through this exact method? I need to fact check this. Nothing about Tim Walz's record in Minnesota. Nothing about Kamala's record in California. All right-wing manufactured talking points, because the entire reality TV show is going to be structured around Trump if he's in the picture.
But now she wants to, quote, build that wall. I mean, will we start hearing that at Harris rallies?
No,
she has
I'm not
a
glad.
history of bashing the border wall. Several years of tweets. Look at this, calling it a, quote, waste and stupid. And while Trump rally crowds have been the ones chanting build that wall for almost a decade, Democrats derided them.
His racist wall at our...
Yeah, the interview was not great, but the interviewer was by far the worst part. I would give Kamala in that interview probably a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 considering the interviewer. But I still think it seemed like she was nervous, wasn't confident. I think she will be coming in a lot stronger in the future. But yeah, she's never been good in that setting. So hopefully she sounds good in the debate.
Southern border.
Quest for a
She might not need to
racist
sound
and
good.
xenophobic wall.
That wall in itself
Trump
is
sounds so
a
bad.
racist reaction to a racist myth.
No matter how you feel about the wall, I think it's a moral abomination.
America cannot simply build walls. We look foolish to the rest of the world.
So why the sudden epiphany? Perhaps.
Why'd you all call us Nazis? Are you a Nazi now? Now you're pushing for a border wall, it seems. And we know you're not actually pushing for it because you're fake. Because you call...
Well, no. Okay, so Democrats pushing for a border bill and border wall isolates Trump to the real position that he holds, which is not border security. The real position Donald Trump holds is authoritarian control of the government and also racism. Because if Democrats will fund a border bill, but Trump doesn't agree with it, and Trump says to kill it, it shows he's only caring about his own political advancement. And also, now they're only focusing on the white replacement part. So it's really stripping them of all arguments that seem logical. So like, oh, I'm voting for Trump because he's good at the border. Well, Kamala says she wants to do the border bill written by the most conservative Republican. Oh, I'm supporting Trump because he's good on the economy. Well, America had the best response by far of any country in the world to COVID. Trump says to lower inflation, he's going to drill, baby, drill. And we're producing record numbers of oil. And we are leading the world in oil production. So now what is the reason you're actually supporting him so strongly? And then it gets down to, well, our neighborhoods aren't going to look the same. And the suburbs are going to be changing because of the public housing that moves in. And they don't even speak English. And Trump's just saying all this stuff openly now.
Called us Nazis for 4
And it's actually scary that so many people are accepting it.
years. 8 years, really. Who could have foreseen that? Who could have foreseen this easy dub for the Republicans? Who? Certainly not someone who's a dumb Twitch streamer like myself. I mean, I'm a dumb. What do I know? What the do I know about how this stuff works? I mean, oh man, isn't that crazy? I can't believe they're using this.
Perhaps it has something to do with this. Headlines
Hi,
since
Spencer.
February saying that people support the border wall more than ever before. But will the American people buy this radical change of heart? Harris is betting on it.
I agree with getting out your base, and I don't think anything Harris said has hurt the base coming out. Like they're saying here, a border bill is accepted by most Americans, but the thing the base wants is a path to citizenship and humane treatment of immigrants and undocumented immigrants and asylum seekers and everything. The one issue I saw hurt the base was the Israel-Palestine, but I don't know if that hurts a lot of the base or if that just hurts the segment of the base that is more young, more progressive, that really, really cares about that as the number one hard issue, and they want an arms embargo. But when it comes to the overall Democratic base, I don't know if they're doing anything to hurt that. I do agree, and I think they've made steps picking Tim Walz and with their campaign messaging to cater it towards the base a lot. But moderates, giving a landing platform for moderates and Republicans is going to be increasingly more important as we get closer to the election, especially judging how Donald Trump is communicating now. There might end up being a George Bush endorsement of Harris. I don't know. But right now, once Trump's out of the picture, I guarantee you Harris is going to pivot left when she gets in office. Now, that might sound silly, but she will be pivoting left because Donald Trump will be out of the picture. That one great threat Democrats had to not do stuff, that one threat is going to be completely gone. We're going to hopefully be able to talk about policy more than we've been able to in the past few years. Hopefully.
On it with a brand new political ad.
She took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades.
Governor Huckabee, it is a radical change. It's an unbelievable change. It's one that almost made me fall out of my chair this morning. But I really want to remind our viewers, and I want to get your reaction to this. CNN, this is what actually happened with the border wall.
Fly straight east out of Nogales, Arizona, and you'll pass miles of rolling border wall built.
I just want you to understand something. This is a ginormous flub, and it's going to literally lead to the Democrats putting this border situation at the forefront of the conversation is not going to be a benefit for them. Okay? It's not going to be a benefit for them. And they're going to actually, because they're constantly pumping ads on this issue, they are going to be portrayed as worse on the immigration issue because they're the ones who are also communicating that immigration is a national security problem. That's it. When it's a bipartisan bill, why is it surprising that it contains pet projects on the other side? Because a Republican wrote it. The bill is a right-wing bill. The problem is they're pushing a right-wing bill that a right-winger wrote. And I've been screaming about this for months. It's a Republican bill. It's a Republican provision. Democrats are simply the ones using this as a talking point. When Biden and the Democratic Party capitulate on right-wing framing on issues, they lend the reactionary propaganda credence. The only issue with immigration is not letting people enter illegally and offering them tools to integrate /
See, this is really difficult because you cannot change the perception of everyone in America. If you could do that so easily, we would not be in this position with Donald Trump. And the media has constructed inflation and immigration as the top two issues. They follow wherever Donald Trump leads them to go when it comes to setting the main topic of discussion. So entering the arena, just now becoming the candidate, brand new thing. We did not know Biden was going to leave a couple months ago. I think they're only 40 days into the campaign or something like that. Not knowing exactly what was going to happen meant they couldn't prepare. So they come into the landscape set as it is. Americans believe this about the world. How can we adapt to what Americans believe about the world, what they believe about Donald Trump, and how can we make a push for the election? It's not like Kamala and the Democrats had 2 years to shape what the narratives are right now. These are the current narratives. And it's important that they're able to combat these narratives on different fronts. So like the corporate price gouging announcement, I know a lot of people that got that, and if you looked at Twitter, you wouldn't believe this, but a lot of people looked at the price gouging thing and said, wow, I might vote for her because prices are too high and I don't like big companies. And that kind of pop politics does work. But you have to remember what we're working with here. Yeah, and everyone has this like social media bubble they're in, as we know. But Hasan's giving this like completely uninformed opinion again. But yeah, Biden dropping out I think there's that graph of depression, like among Democrats, and Biden dropping out like cut everyone's depression, I think in half or something. And I could imagine being like Joe Biden looking at that graph of happiness, Here's the point where Joe Biden drops out. Happiness shoots up 500%.
Work. There's no lump sum of labor. October 6th, 2023. Seems like they released their big border proposal right before the no date. Like I said, if only there was a person out.
And there was an immigration surge. There probably is need for more capacity. How that's carried out is really important. How the administration. So if you look at the executive branch, the legislative branch, and judicial, how the executive guides initiatives set by different laws, such as the immigration, or such as the border bill that would have passed, even though it's conservative. It's important to remember that an extremely conservative border bill under Kamala Harris will function much differently than a border bill under Donald Trump. The same exact bill with the same exact wording under a different presidential administration can have much, different impacts to the reality of who it affects. Because the executive helps carry these laws out and ensures their functions. Yeah, I don't like it's the same exact thing as disingenuous too. I don't like the bill, but politics.
Border proposal right before the no date. Like I said, if only there was a person out there who knew what this spelled for the Dems. We had 10 months where they could have cut counter narratives against this shit. 11 months, but they didn't. Never ever capitulate to right-wing framing. Never ever concede or cave to the right on any issues. After all, you're supposed to be the counterbalance to their fascism. Why can't they backtrack?
They are.
They would look like unimaginable flip-floppers now. So the best thing to do is just like only run in key constituencies, only run like a pro border wall thing in like very few markets, and only talk about how bad. If I'm going to Arizona, if I'm going to Nevada, if I'm going to New Mexico, I'm running the exact opposite. I'm never talking about the border, or anytime I talk about the border, I'm talking about how Trump is going to deport American citizens that look Mexican. That's all I'm doing. The fact that they're not doing that is insane to me. There was a day.
Wait, what is this argument?
I'm never talking about the border, or anytime I talk about the border, I'm talking about how Trump is going to deport American citizens that look Mexican. That's all I'm doing. The fact that they're not doing that is insane to me. There was a day where I looked up your earliest critique of the Biden admin's immigration policy, and it was April 2021, 3 months into his presidency. Yeah, it didn't take much for me to start shitting on Biden. The biggest issue is one side continues to approach this in good faith. No, they don't. What? But complaining about it is a literal ridiculous. No, they don't. The Democrats are not approaching this in good faith. What good faith are they approaching this on? Do you think immigrants are actually constituting a national security problem? Are you dumb? There is no evidence for this. It is a completely fake issue. They're not approaching this issue in good faith at all. That's
Democrats don't control CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Every media agency, I would say right now, is working against the Democrats, other than certain certain hosts and political commentators on CNN and MSNBC, more so MSNBC. They're not helping the Harris campaign at all. If you saw the interview with Dana Bash, that did not look good for anyone involved, including Dana Bash, who had one of the weakest interviews I've ever seen. She's getting paid $3 million a year, by the way. So when you watch that first Kamala interview, remember the person doing it is getting paid $3 million a year. But yeah, I would agree with Hasan if we could control every single media company in the U.S. to change this narrative that has been ingrained in American society for the past 50 years. I agree it's a difficult line to toe, but if you're thinking we can move, we can move the entire earth, and I don't know. It's a hard, that's the thing about politics. And why it's hard for Hasan to engage. I make clear where my principles are, where my morals are, where my stances are. But it's like AOC said the other day, your moral obligation in politics is to be politically effective. If you are just going to sit back and be very pompous and be like, oh, I'm so much better than you, I'm so much more correct, and you don't care as much as I do, if that's going to be your entire thing in politics, and you don't care about voting, you don't care about voting for who gives you the best chance to do that, you're going to talk about Jill Stein or Cornel West or whatever, you're not doing your moral obligation, and you need to stop acting morally superior if you're not going to push for what creates tangible change.
That's why I say it's bad politics and bad policy. Good politics would be not
Yeah,
to make,
child tax
not
credit.
to ever concede on
Definitely.
trans rights, for example, but not to make trans rights the forefront of your political movement. That would be good politics. A good policy would be, for example, Medicare for all. And then within the Medicare for all structure, having obviously trans healthcare as well be factored into the equation. If you want healthcare, yeah, trans people are going to get healthcare. If you want healthcare, women are still going to be able to get abortions. Like, that is good politics and good policy. Okay? I mean, in terms of trying not to bring bipartisan bills or compromise when the other side gives nothing, why? Why compromise with the Republicans? They've never acted in good faith. What are you talking about? You have been deluded into thinking that, like, compromise is good on its own virtue. Compromise is its own virtue. There is no reason to compromise with the Republicans. They're fascist.
Yeah, it's like that meme from I think Shane Gillis, where he says like, wow, that border problem is really gonna impact these office workers in these Pennsylvania suburbs. Yeah, they're really coming to take those jobs. And in reality, a lot of undocumented immigrants are just like child workers doing child labor in like Alabama, working in really dangerous factories. If everyone has an inflation problem now with how much items cost, just wait until they get rid of 15 million families who are all working in very low paying jobs in America. Like, yeah, none of it really makes logical sense, of course.
They want to do bad things. They want to harm minorities. I'm sorry. There's no reason to compromise with them. And also, they don't even actually end up compromising with you. That's why the bipartisan bill is bipartisan in name only. It's just a right-wing bill. A Republican wrote it. Then how do you make progress in Congress? I don't know. How do Republicans do it? Think. How do Republicans do it? They seem to pass their bills. And no, Republicans don't win elections. What are you talking about? They don't. They lose all the time, but they still enact their agenda. How? Court packing, obviously the Supreme Court being the most significant part of that process, and also utilizing the unfairly redistricted state legislatures to their benefit. That's how they do it. How the did they ban abortion under the Biden administration, dude? They didn't do it under the Trump administration. They did it under the Biden regime. How'd they do that? How'd they pass so many anti-trans bills? Dude, did they do?
Wait, but Democrats couldn't control. How could Democrats control who was in the court system before Biden when there's no process to hold like justices accountable? I don't get that point.
Dude, they didn't do it under the Trump administration. They did it under the Biden regime. How'd they do that? How'd they pass so many anti-trans bills? Dude, did they do this through Congress? No. Do they need Congress? No. They just have a willingness to enact their regressive policies, so they actually do it. They just push through.
I mean, I agree that Republicans are more politically ruthless. And everything Republicans have done in the past 50 years has led to Trump. And we cannot let them escape from that. Even Republicans that are endorsing Democrats and saying like, oh, I'm so sorry for supporting a like authoritarian dictator wannabe. You still need to remember what led to Trump being successful. And it really did start with Nixon and Reagan. And this is the natural extension of treating reality TV or treating politics like reality TV. Most people do feel inflation, especially because most of the stories I see are people mad about like Dollar Tree not being $1 per item anymore. But we do have an issue with credit card companies giving out bad loans, predatory gambling companies. We have an issue with predatory insurance companies for medical care and every other type of insurance. And we also have issues with spending on things like DoorDash. DoorDash had some of the highest profits DoorDash ever had before. Uber Eats had some of the highest profits they ever had before. I know people making probably less than $15 an hour who still DoorDash very often, and that's definitely not good. They're putting that money on a credit card company that's giving out predatory loans and everything, and that all feeds back into each other. And it's harder for you to feel negative things, or it's harder for you to feel the positive things like increasing wages. It's really easy to see that price go up on groceries. And I don't know if anyone really coupons. I coupon a lot. It helps a little bit.
They don't even do it.
That's kind of a meme. I know coupons aren't going to fix the economy. It's kind of a meme. But if everyone did shop smarter and go to like Aldi's and use coupons and stuff, I bet prices would come down a little bit. That's also a little bit of a meme, but slightly true. But I understand being in really bad positions in life. You're not going to want to budget and buy groceries and stuff. Some days you just got to, you know, sit down and order takeout food you can't afford. You know the vibes. You just got to sometimes.
Aggressive policies, so they actually do it. They just push through. They don't even do it with like a legitimate constituency backing certain bills. Nobody gives a fuck about trans people. Nobody cares. Like, no one's like, oh, my life is... You cannot find a single person, a single human being that's like, my life is so much better now that a 14-year-old trans girl cannot participate in high school swimming competitions. That's
a funny... Yeah, sure. Like, your life's not going to be better. If you look at any policy in American history that has really benefited people, like cut poverty and given healthcare and helped workers and everything, it's hard to name one that Republicans have passed. When you really think about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, WIC, pretty much anything that the government has done that's positive. It's easy when you're a Republican to do this stuff that Hasan's talking about, because their entire goal, their job in life, is to do anti-Democrat stuff. They don't have any principles. They don't have any policies they need to pass. They just do whatever's anti-Democrat. And that's very easy. And that's also one reason why Trump's having an issue running against Kamala. And why I think it's smart they avoided interviews and giving out a super detailed policy platform, because they don't have a platform on the Trump side. All they do is take what Democrats do and try to make it look bad and just say, I'm going to do whatever she doesn't do. I'm going to do the opposite of what Kamala wants to do. But it's easier to burn stuff down. You could destroy 50 years of progress in 2 years as a Republican, just like they're going to do if Trump wins again. It's very hard to make that progress, and it's going to be really hard to get that progress back if Trump does win.
Not a real person. That person does not exist. That's a deluded loser. The fuck are you talking about? Really? Can you actually pay for your meal? Are your grocery bills cheaper now? Is it easier for you to maintain your job? Do you have more comfort now because the Republican legislature in your state did that? Is that how you feel now that you bullied like 3 trans girls in the state of Utah? Utah? I can't even talk. Utah. I kind of like that for Utah. I'm just going to say Utah. Ohio is because I was thinking of Utah, and it's a terrible idea. It's got 70% approval and it's bipartisan. Will a Republican vote for a Democrat for that reason? I'm telling you the inverse of this. Will you vote for a Republican if they were to come out and be like, I don't want a ban on abortion? What are you talking about? Is anyone going to vote for the Republican Party because they're the pro-abortion party? No? Okay, then no one's voting for the Democrats because they're the anti-immigration party. I rest my case.
Well, no, but it gives Republicans more of a pass to vote Kamala. So it gives their brain more justification to vote for a Democrat. And that's the thing that really matters when you're talking about getting Republicans to leave when Trump gets worse and worse and worse. And a lot of politics is social and vibes. So when someone talks to their friends and they say you're voting for Kamala and their friend laughs at them and says, well, Trump's harder on the border, that person who is switching their vote to Kamala is going to feel better about doing that. It doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what they think. And what Kamala is doing, and these ads are very targeted about the border bill. They're extremely targeted in areas where they think it'll work. They're not playing this border bill advertisement. And then that's why they're doing mostly digital, because they can control where it goes. But they're not going to play this advertisement everywhere. PayPal debit card, 5% off groceries. Lots of rewards. Credit card rewards are the main way to build wealth for real. Best way to build wealth is credit cards. Okay, this is a video I want to do. This. Nice. Alrighty. Bernie to Trump pipeline. 1 second. I was rummaging around. Did you hear that? I forgot to mute. Wow. Okay. So I'm pretty sure this video is coming. I'm pretty sure this video is coming because Tulsi came out to endorse Trump after endorsing Bernie Sanders, then endorsing Biden over Bernie Sanders, and then endorsing Trump over Biden and Trump over Kamala. So Tulsi Vs Trump, is Bernie to Trump pipeline real? Yes.
Past week, two significant formerly leftish figures decided to throw their lot in with the reigning global symbol of right populist authoritarians, Donald Trump. Now, that would be former 2024 presidential candidate RFK Jr. and former 2020 presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard. Both appeared to travel a kind of similar journey from dissident left to right wing, and so they sparked a round of online discussion about the supposed Bernie to Trump pipeline. There's a lot, of course, that this formulation leaves out. For one thing, Tulsi's most recent presidential endorsement in 2020, while Bernie was still in the race, went to Joe Biden. Yet there are no think pieces on the Biden to Trump pipeline, at least none that I've seen. I can't actually find a record of who RFK Jr. supported in 2020. Someone can message me and let me know. But I know his similarly red-pilled vice presidential pick was a Mayor Pete backer.
Well, pretty much a lot of the dynamics you'll find with far-right politics or fascist politics or whatever word you use is really just power grab. And that's why these movements have no beliefs. These movements have no beliefs because, you know, Tulsi can support Bernie because she thinks she'll be in a Bernie admin. She can support Biden to see if she can get in a Biden admin. I'm pretty sure Tulsi grew up in a cult, so she might have some weird beliefs surrounding that. But also, right now, she probably believes she could be a part of the Trump campaign and get on the Trump admin. She also does have some Russian money behind her. Hillary Clinton was correct about that. So you can follow the money. You can follow anyone who makes their entire priority being anti-liberal, just anti-democrat, and anti-democracy in general.
Former Never Trump resistance figure JD Vance is now literally Trump's VP pick. In other words, there are many ideological and ambition-driven paths between the two political parties back and forth. I could also point out that by the numbers, actually, more Hillary voters, bitter over her loss to Obama, defected to McCain in 2008 than angry Bernie bros defected to Trump in 2016. In fact, with the new coconut-pilled-inspired unity, if anything, the problem is closer to the one Matt Karp identifies, which is that too many online Bernie bros are demanding too little from Kamala Harris for their support.
The Russian television money, so you can follow specific interviews Tulsi has done and connect it to donors that she has had. And jobs that she has held. And then her messaging drastically changes and matches exact wording word for word from Russia propaganda sources concerning the war in Ukraine. And she has been one of the most supportive individuals publicly of Russia against Ukraine. And Hillary was pretty correct. Really, Russia picks out who they think useful idiots can be. So Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi, they all have connections somewhere along the journey, and much of it has to do with fundraising. So Twitter is financed by a lot of Russian billionaires when Elon Musk bought it, and etc.
Support. All of this is true, and if I was writing this monologue a few years ago, I would have penned a blistering screed filleting these shitlibs for their unending animus and bias towards the left. But the truth is, we got a few too many examples now, several of which I've been personally burned by, to totally dismiss the Bernie to Trump pipeline as a baseless mainstream media plot to discredit the left. It pains me to admit it, but the libs are not entirely wrong. There's former communist, now ardent Trump supporter Russell Brand. There's former TYT progressive host Jimmy Dore, whose politics now just seem to be centered around hating libs and being anti-COVID vax. There's, however you want to describe, Twitter ubiquitous Jackson Hinkle. I'm sure you've got your own examples that come to mind. I think the online influencer horseshoe journey is likely more common than the regular person horseshoe journey, as best I can tell by the polling data. But it'd be foolish to assume that none of these influencers' flock followed them from dissident left to Trumpian right. Probably some of you listening to me right now. In terms of the horseshoe influencers, most of them would claim that their politics haven't budged an inch. It's that, in fact, the Democratic Party left them. Just zooming in on RFK and Tulsi, these claims are pretty hard to take seriously, especially at this late date in Trumpism, when few, if any, real populist elements remain, have instead been replaced by standard boomercon attacks on imaginary communists. But a quick look at the statements of both RFK and...
Well, when you look at Donald Trump's populism, his entire populist movement was to be the response to Obama, which is to be white identity politics. So Donald Trump is white identity politics. Draining the swamp was never about draining the elites or whatever. Draining the swamp was about culture more than it was wealth. It was about making, the swamp go away, which is DEI, diversity, critical race theory. That was the swamp. That's the swamp they want gone. The swamp is anyone in academia or the media, or now if you're a general in the army and Trump doesn't like you, that's the swamp. The swamp's whoever Trump doesn't like, and the swamp is going to be whatever identity groups his followers are against, because they will cheer for Elon Musk. They'll cheer for any billionaire. They'll cheer when their rights are taken away. They'll cheer when unions are made illegal. Union members will vote Trump and not realize that he's going to be the reason that their union is completely killed and why they don't have health care and why they cannot bargain for labor. Because Trump is able to weaponize their anger against them. And that's what it's about. Just if you have more anger for the elites, if you have anger and confusion, you can go from Bernie to Trump, because you just see a man yelling against the establishment. But Bernie, unlike many individuals, actually has values and principles. So Bernie pivoted right away in 2016, campaigned for Hillary, and then campaigned for Joe Biden. No matter what happened, Bernie Sanders cared about helping working people and helping humanity in general. So that's what sets Bernie Sanders aside from all of these horseshoe theory, Bernie to Trump media pundits.
Tulsi will leave you pretty convinced that to back Trump, they changed or abandoned their principles. I guess it's also possible that they've thoroughly confused themselves about who Donald Trump actually is and what the Republican Party actually stands for. Remember Tulsi's most memorable moment of righteous indignation at Kamala's expense during the 2020 primary? Let's just take a listen to that again.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
It's impossible to imagine Tulsi Gabbard critiquing Kamala on criminal justice or much of anything from the left at this point. And by endorsing Trump, Tulsi signing up with a man who called for the now exonerated Central Park 5 to be executed, and a man who has already threatened to use the Insurrection Act to launch a military crackdown in Chicago and other American cities in response to crime as part of this current presidential bid. With regard to RFK Jr., just a few months ago, he was absolutely ripping Trump.
Yeah, they will say anything. I think RFK's VP pick is like a ultra wealthy, like, isn't she ultra wealthy? RFK's VP pick. And once she wanted RFK to endorse Trump, she just like did it right away. Or RFK just did it right away because she like held a bunch of debt over RFK's head.
On a wide variety of fronts, including Trump's militarism and corporatism. Quote, if you think a second Trump term would be any different, you are engaging in wishful.
Is the audio popping for you guys at all? Like, are you hearing like a minor pop every few seconds?
Thinking. Well, now RFK Jr. has flipped from blasting Trump for turning his foreign policy over to the worst warmongers and neocons to absurdly claiming that Trump is anti-war. He also claimed that Trump would combat censorship, and wild, insanely dishonest claim that Kyle did a fantastic job of debunking. In reality, of course, Trump, among other things, wants to punish flag burning with
Okay, is it this video or is it a different video that's making that popping noise?
a year in jail. Sued CNN for $475 million for calling election denialism the big lie. Sued.
Okay, let me play a different video for a second. See if it does.
Oh, I know for sure, right? Nobody's been in a FEMA camp. Obama left, there was no FEMA camps. So what I asked, like, for the right-wing conspiracy guys.
Okay, it is this
Bill
video
Maher,
that's doing that.
over a joke, supports opening up the libel laws, called for jailing journalists who reported on the SCOTUS abortion ruling, wants to deport pro-Palestine protesters, etc., etc. You get the point. So at least for these two, the claim they're just consistently following their long-held principles, it's pretty preposterous. So what's really going on here? Everyone calls everyone a grifter these days. However, we would be naive to overlook the pull of commercial and career incentives. Since we're talking about a bunch of hyper-online influencers, algorithmic rewards and audience capture are pretty compelling, if not totally complete answers. Look, I'm in this game. I know what clicks. I can see it in our metrics every single day. If I was simply following the anti-establishment money, my politics would look a lot like Tulsi or RFK Jr. or the others. And there are few things more irresistible to the entire right-wing universe than a why I left the left narrative arc. That's why the Trump campaign has confused themselves into thinking that RFK Jr., who has a deeply negative approval rating and a rash of perplexing and horrifying stories about his past, not to mention a set of deeply unpopular ideas, and Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat who garnered a whopping 0.7% of the primary vote, will be powerful campaign additions. Their brains have been cooked by the stew of right-wing traditional and social media. Naomi Klein digs a layer deeper into this reward system in her terrific book, Doppelganger. In it, she details how a phenomenon in which she is constantly confused with Naomi Wolf led her to think more deeply about what she describes as the, quote, mirror world that some like Wolf have tumbled into.
Okay, I'm only putting this in chat because Cloud asked about it earlier. I am not asking for money.
Now, Naomi Wolf followed that horseshoe arc from Al Gore advisor and leading feminist to Bannon war room regular and right-wing COVID-era celebrity influencer. In the book, Naomi Klein describes how during COVID, she became somewhat obsessed with the confusion between herself and this doppelganger.
And I only have Patreon going until I'm monetized again. I'm at 1,500 public watch hours out of 3,000.
COVID, she became somewhat obsessed with the confusion between herself and this doppelganger, and especially obsessed with the journey that other Naomi had traveled. What happened? How did she justify it? One of the things that Naomi Klein found is that the mirror world or horseshoe or Bernie to Trump phenomenon, it's actually not just a US dynamic. Similar movement in Germany labels itself Querdenken, taking a stab at the pronunciation there, meaning outside the box or diagonal, and combines neo-fascists with hippie-type health obsessives. Other similar movements have sprung up throughout Europe as well. As Klein writes in her book, despite claims of post-partisanship, it is right-wing, often far-right political parties around the world that have managed to absorb the unruly passions and energy of diagonalism, folding its COVID-era grievances into pre-existing projects opposing wokeness and drumming up fears of migrant invasions, alien abductions, as well as climate lockdowns. Still, it is important for these movements to present themselves as and to believe themselves to be ruptures with politics as usual, to claim to be something new beyond traditional left-right polls, which is why having a few prominent self-identified progressives and or liberals involved is so critical. In other words, these movements need former Democrats, so they'll scoop up a discredited Naomi Wolf or a failed and scorned presidential candidate or two and embrace them. They'll download their podcast, they'll push them to stardom. They'll replace the scorn and derision of liberals with the praise and adoration of the right. That's an intoxicating brew for anyone, but may prove completely irresistible depending on a set of life experiences and personality traits. As Naomi Klein writes, quote, I could offer a kind of equation for leftists and liberals crossing over to the neo-fascist and authoritarian right that goes something like narcissism times grandiosity plus social media addiction plus midlife crisis divided by public shaming equals right-wing meltdown. She was joking, but it does ring a little bit true. I want to dwell on that public shaming piece, though, because I think it's important. It gives me an excuse to get back on the more comfortable ground of criticizing liberals.
I think narcissism is one of the biggest things at play. This video is kind of boring. But yeah, I think narcissism is a key point of all these political movements. They all think, like, either I should be in power of the, in charge of the world, I should be in power of everything. I should hold all the power available everywhere. I know the truth. I found the truth. No one else has the truth. If anyone makes fun of me, then I need to make sure I'm able to defend myself, and that's why they go into these corners of the internet. Oh, man. Interesting stuff. I don't even know if that could be a full video. How about DEI, affirmative action being repealed by the Supreme Court, so you cannot admit anyone based on race anymore to college. And then California fired back, and their response was to pass a law that was essentially banning like legacy and donor admissions in colleges, which I think is a really good idea. That's probably one of the policies we should use to talk about why affirmative action was a thing, because when we talked about affirmative action, we just heard, why should they just be going there? Because they're black. And that's not why, obviously. It's because certain demographics suffer from issues that prevent them from having good SAT tutors, so they cannot get into top colleges. And it meant to, you know, affirmative action would help fix that in the world. But the response to them getting rid of affirmative action being banning donors admissions and also legacy initiative, or not legacy initiative, legacy admissions is pretty cool because it kind of shows where the core values came from. Trump Fox News. Let's see. I saw Trump had a really difficult interview tonight. Really just tough questions. Oh no, they're so unfunny on Fox News. It's actually... Ooh. Interesting. Beautiful. Donald Trump believes in God more after the assassination attempt. Very interesting stuff. I want to know what kind of God he believes in now.
Go to church. You believe in God. Has this further your belief, your commitment? And obviously, God, in addition to that chart, saved your life. He has a purpose for you. Do you think about these things?
Well, I think you...
I know this has been said before, but it's very twisted to me when you see someone and you say, God had a plan for you, so he saved you. But that other guy that got killed, I guess he just had to go. That was like, he just had to. God could save you, but he only had one save today. He could not use his one save on that guy. You had to be the one saved. Like, it's so wild to even repeat that. And to suggest, even from a religious perspective, God chose you to survive this brutal attack is wild.
Saved your life. He has a purpose for you. Do you think about these things?
Well, I think you believe more because when you speak to experts, like my sons who are shooting experts, but when you speak to experts, they said there was no chance that he could have missed from that distance. I think he was hurried. I think he was rushed because people were starting to say, like, you know, there's a guy up there with a gun. And I think he was probably rushed.
This is what drives people crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Right now. Me too. It's a guy up there with a gun.
I know.
The hell? There's a guy up there with a gun.
By the time they started saying it, it was a little bit on the late side. And luckily he was taken out quickly. But I'll tell you, if he wasn't, it would have been like in Las Vegas, that horrible attack in Las Vegas with the crazy man up in the building shooting down into the crowds. And that's what you would have had here. These crowds were bigger. And you would have had a lot of people. It was
Donald, how did he find a way to bring it back to crowd sizes? By comparing it to the Las Vegas shooter. How did he find a way to bring it back? How did he do it? Like,
it was bad having three, and especially losing one. But no, I think you think, like, if you believed in God, you believe in God more. And somebody said, like, why? And I'd like to think that God thinks that I'm going to straighten out our country. Our country is so sick, and it's so broken. Our country is just broken. And maybe that was the reason. I don't know.
I just think maybe God thought I was going to save the world. He thought I was going to save the world. He said I was Superman, actually. God came down. God came down and blessed me. He blessed me. Oh, the really difficult Trump interview. I want to see how he survives
Hello,
it.
America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. I hope you're having a wonderful Labor Day weekend. We have a very
Kamala could never do an adversarial interview like
special
this.
program for you. Two-part program tonight and tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern as well. My interview with President Trump. Now, let me tell you something that's unique about this interview. I don't interview
I don't actually interview him. I just give him I don't even give him softball questions. I just like say he's amazing and give him a chance to talk after. That's what's amazing about this interview. Okay, where's the actual thing? Okay.
We're in the midst of a campaign.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, how you feeling?
I feel good. We're in the midst of a campaign. We have to fight the government and candidates. Nobody's ever had that before. But I feel good. We're doing well. We're leading. We beat Biden by 18 or 20 points, and then he had to get out of the race. And now they gave me a new one. But I think we're doing very well. Nobody's ever had a double. You know, you have to beat one, and when that person doesn't do well, they say, that's all right, we'll take them out, we'll put a new one in. But I think we're doing very well.
Hopefully they don't yank her and then put a third one in. You never know.
That'll happen, I'm sure.
First of all, we're here for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is you have a fantastic new book that's coming out. And I'll tell you what's amazing about this book to me as I went through it. And you make your notes, you have comments in your book. The pictures are beautiful. A couple of things. Number one, your attachment to working Americans. There's Hollywood, there's the athletes. You saw the Democrat convention. You had one entertainer after another after.
Oh my goodness, get on your knees.
Your book
already
is heavy with firefighters, police officers, coal miners, people who drill for oil.
Yeah, because he's trying to look good while he's like taking away their rights to safely work and unionize.
Oil, truckers, common people. So let me ask you this. You spent most of your life around these people. You were a developer. You were a builder, electricians, plumbers.
Thank you, Cloud.
Construction workers of every kind. You created thousands and thousands of middle-class jobs with pensions,
one of the originals,
medical insurance, and so forth and so on. Why do you think your opponents get away with claiming to represent the little guy, the middle class, the blue-collar worker, when they have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with them? And you've spent your entire life around.
Yes, dude. Donald Trump has spent his entire life around working class people. His entire life, from the moment he was handed $500 million. He has tons of experience discriminating against working class people. That's, opposite of someone like Tim Walz or Kamala Harris, who actually worked real jobs at one point in their life. Donald Trump has like 90% of his net worth from being a reality TV star and pretending to be a businessman. He understands the plight of the working man.
Well, certainly, I had two opponents. I had Biden, and then he disappeared a couple of weeks ago at their insistence. And we had a debate, and the debate was a good debate, and he was 18 or 20 points down, and they went to see him, and they said, we want you out, you're not going to win. And you started hearing those rumors, and then all of a sudden he was gone, and they gave me a new one who never got a vote. In all fairness to him, I'm not a fan of his, but he had 14 million votes. He worked for a year to win. She actually started off with him, when you think. But he worked for a year to win. He won. And then they threw him out when they say, this is not a democracy. Okay, when you think about it, what is that all about? She never got a vote. But
I think Trump just said she never got a vote, and this is a democracy. This is a democracy. She never got a vote, and when you think about it, she never got a vote. When you think about it, it's a democracy.
Regardless, so then they gave me her, and he's a very angry man, but he's gone. And now I have Kamala. I call her Comrade Kamala because she's radical left. She's a radical left.
Bro, people hear this and start cheering. Dude. They start crying. They start thinking this is like their savior from God. Oh my goodness. How is he above 45% in the polls?
Marxist. And that's what she is. And she'll destroy our country. There's not going to be any fracking in Pennsylvania. And for her whole life, there was none. She fought people like I've never seen anything like it. Look at.
And for her whole life, there was none. Well, we're at like world records of oil production right now.
The way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence.
Wait, what is this train of thought right here? I have to start from the beginning.
Look at the way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the vicious. There's not going to be any fracking in Pennsylvania. And for her whole
No
life, there
fracking.
was none. She fought people
For her whole life,
like
there
I've
was
never
none.
seen anything like it. Look at the
She
way she
fought
fought
people.
Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and
Fought
the violence.
Kavanaugh, vicious and violent.
She's a Marxist. She's worse.
Marxist.
Much higher in the scale than Elizabeth.
Much higher
Pocahontas
than
Warren.
Elizabeth. Pocahontas
Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are not
and
as
Bernie Sanders.
left as she is, but she's just really out there. Now she's totally changed her whole policies, everything. I mean, she's gone, they call her the greatest flip-flopper because she's gone for I'll never drill for oil to like, you know, let's put a well on every street. But she won't do that. If she won, she'll never do that. She'll never do that. She'll never do any of the things. I saw today she wants to build walls. She fought me for years on the wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, but she was...
Trump just said he's like pro-choice yesterday, and then he said he's not pro-choice, and then he said he's like, you know, 6 weeks is too little. Then he's like, wait a second, I changed my mind. I'm actually going to be voting to maintain the 6. Like, oh man, I don't know. Like, the media bubbles existing today are so extreme. It's so sad. Many people I know, many people I know believe everything he's saying right here. And I don't even know what he's saying. There's no way to really tell what point he's trying to
one
make.
of the people that fought me, one of the Democrats, but one of the people. And you look at how she's changed, and it's so phony because, and all of this
Suddenly
stuff, you know,
she
with
turned
politics, it's usually their first thought, that's where they are. And her first thought is Marxism. She's not going to have walls. She's going to have people. We'll have 100 million people in this country within 4 years.
Kamala wakes up and her first thought when she opens her eyes is Marxism, bro. That's Marxism, of course.
If she gets elected, 100 million. They've already allowed 20 million in. I think it's a lot higher than that. And Mark, they come from prisons and jails. There's a slight difference. And they come from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they come also as terrorists at a level that we've never seen before. And they're pouring into the country. We have millions of people coming in, but hundreds of thousands of those people are criminals from Venezuela. They take them off the streets of Caracas and they bring them into our country, and then they announce.
All right, Grandpa, we got to get you to bed. We got to get Grandpa to bed. He's going on one of those rants again.
The crime rate is way down. You know, that's what they've done. Their crime rate is way down now. But they come from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and from South America. And they're destroying our country. And when you watch her, like at the convention, everything's just peachy Dore. But migrant crime is turning out to be a disaster. Many, many people are killed and raped and mugged and everything else. These are tough people. But they let them out of jails. You take Venezuela. Their crime rate is down at a number they've never had before. They're taking all of their criminals and busing them into the United States of America and dropping them and saying, if you come back, we will kill you. And then I'm supposed to sit and debate this person, and she'll say, oh, no, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. And now she's going around and saying, we had the weakest border in history. She was the border czar. She was put in charge of the border. We had the weakest border in the history of the world, I think. I believe it's not just here, the world. And now she's going around saying, I think I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall. She fought me for years on the wall. She was on every lawsuit. I had 11 lawsuits. And she was on every one of them. One of the leaders. She's not that much of a leader. But the one thing she is radical left. And she's rated much further left than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was unelectable, and she's much worse than him. And Biden was just a fake. You know, he wasn't really left. I don't think he really knew what he was, if you want to know the truth, actually, for a long time. But Biden was not real. She's real. She really believes in all this stuff. Defund the police. She wants to defund the police. For years, she said defund the police.
This is like my Twitter feed, dude. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to say. He's like, it's an avalanche of just like poop. It's like an avalanche of just like the most like, I don't even know. There's no way to possibly talk about actual issues or anything when he's a thing. When he's a thing, you can't talk about actual issues. Even if anything he's saying has 1% validity, we cannot focus on that 1% that matters, because he doesn't care about anything at all. And like, I don't know, he cannot stay on one topic for more than half a second, I am getting whiplash. I don't know what to even like.
Now, all of a sudden, a little while ago, she goes, no, I don't want to defund the police. She's flip-flopped on every single thing that you could flip-flop, from border
She never said she wanted to defund the police.
strength to defunding and defunding the police, things that you wouldn't believe. She doesn't want to have any fracking. She doesn't want to have oil.
I'm tired.
She doesn't know
man.
how you're going to fire up our plants. How do you fire them up? You don't fire them up with wind, I can tell you that. The wind, let the wind blow.
Not the wind.
So,
Not the wind rant, dude. Didn't Trump say that wind energy is the reason that we are not consuming bacon anymore?
I think our country's in serious trouble. The good news is I'm leading. I think I'm leading maybe by a lot. Could be a lot more than people think. And historically, you know, I was losing to Hillary, and I ended up winning quite easily. Once people hear, and also they have to look at what we did. We had a great economy. We had no inflation. We rebuilt the military. We defeated ISIS.
Oh, we had zero inflation. We defeated
but I had
ISIS.
no new wars.
One of the Trump ads says that Kamala allowed ISIS in the U.S. Like, because of immigration, ISIS is now in the U.S. That's what I saw in Pennsylvania on TV.
Built the military. We defeated ISIS, but I had no new wars. Our country is going to be in World War III. Right now, we don't have a president. We have Biden that just took a vacation in California.
Bro, what is he saying?
Going to be in World War III. Right now, we don't have a president. We have Biden that just took a vacation in California, came home, was going to go to the office. He decided to go back to Delaware, where he's going to take another vacation. And we have people talking about World War III. And
bro, I don't, we have people talking about World War III. I don't know if people know that Trump sounds this bad. I've been saying this to people when I'm talking to them because they're worried about the polls. And I'm very worried too, because I imagine a scenario when they do find out Trump is this bad and they still support him. But I truly don't believe that the American public knows Trump got this bad. And him being banned on like Facebook and Twitter and all those whatever websites and media pages probably saved him in the past 4 years. I think if he was never banned on Twitter after January 6th, I think he actually would have like not been the candidate this time around, possibly, because he would have gotten so unhinged. But yeah, I don't think people know that he's like this yet.
a war like no other, by the way. This would be a war like no other because of the weaponry. So we just have a country that's in such trouble. I know it's close to your heart, but the October 7th attack of Israel would have never happened if I was there. As you know, Iran had no money to give to Hamas and to Hezbollah and all of the other elements of terror, lots of different terms, but they call them elements of terror. That's the new term. But they had no money to do that. During my term, we had no terrorist attacks. Think of it. You didn't have Iran saying they're going to blow up Israel, and you didn't have Putin saying he's going into Ukraine. That would have never happened. Putin going into Ukraine would have never happened. And inflation would have never happened. And Afghanistan would have never happened. I was just with the parents of some of the great heroes.
Just says shit. He just says anything, dude. Good things. I do good things. I'm gonna list off all these bad things. They never would have happened. Like the way he lists everything, one by one down the list. By the way, I won't judge you if you leave. I would stop watching at this point. I might use this for a YouTube video. I don't know yet. It's late. This is terrible.
The great heroes from the Afghanistan slaughter.
I want to stream every now and then to have little chats with you guys, even if it's watching really bad Trump videos.
Great heroes from the Afghanistan slaughter. 13 died, many, many horrifically injured. And overall, 400 or 500 people were killed, including both sides, right? Because I like to include both sides. And we lost hundreds of people. There are hundreds of people dead. We left $85 billion worth of military equipment behind. You know, Afghanistan now is one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling our equipment, brand new, beautiful stuff. How they put in so much, who would believe it? But we left Americans behind, as you know, and you covered really well, better than anybody. You get it. But that would have never happened. All of these things would have never happened. And now we have a world that it's just blowing up. They asked the...
I think one of the worst things about Trump as well is the very low standard being set from politicians. Before, politicians had to lie in an effective way and then somewhat deliver on their promises, and they could be good as long as they're good at speaking and good at politics. But now they don't even need to lie. Like, you can come out like Trump is right here. It's clear that Donald Trump has no idea what anything means. He has zero information or understanding of anything in the world other than marketing. And he throws around these terms. He never needs to say what exactly they mean. He lies. You know, he literally switches positions within 24 hours, within 5 minutes, within any amount of time. But he tells you he's lying. He doesn't even try to hide it. He doesn't try to hide how bad he is. He doesn't try to hide that he's happy when you fire striking workers. He doesn't try to hide that he wants to control every part of your body. He doesn't try to hide that he wants to replace the entire U.S. military with loyalists. He doesn't try to hide that he, you know, proudly got Roe v. Wade overturned. He is openly very aggressively bad. And the only thing that saves him is being a good marketer, and because people really do not like the idea of immigrants coming to America who are not white. All of those combining factors, because he literally played a reality TV star who pretended to be a businessman. He was never good in business. There's zero evidence of Trump being good at business. If you looked at his taxes or any money he's ever earned, it's been through licensing, it's been through television appearances, it's been through speaking appearances. Other people manage the actual Trump enterprise, which he was handed his entire life. So the standard for politician isn't even lying and then somewhat delivering. It's literally just like lying and then telling you he's lying, and I don't know. I don't know, dude. This is the man of the people right here.
And now we have a world that it's just blowing up. They asked the Prime Minister of Hungary, as you know who I'm talking about, Viktor Orban.
And he's in the book?
He's in the book.
A lot of these leaders you dealt with are in the book.
Many of them are, yeah. But they asked him, what do you think? I mean, why is the world blowing up? Viktor Orban it's strong. They consider.
What did he say? Why is the world blowing up from Viktor Orban? The immigrants, the gays, maybe, something like that.
I'm strong. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. Runs a strong country. And he said,
runs an authoritarian dictatorship.
Bring Trump back and it'll all stop. We had no problem when Trump was president. We had no problem. I would stop wars of two countries that we had nothing to do with a telephone call. I would stop wars with a telephone. And it's very sad. The world is exploding right now. That's what the question to him was. The world is exploding. What's happening? What's the difference? He said, you have to bring Trump back. So we'll see what happens, but we're doing well in the election.
Let me follow up with you. In the book, you have some very compelling photos of the border. You spent a lot of time on the border.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time working on the border, thinking about the border, litigating to get the money to build the wall on the border, opposition from people like Kamala Harris. She says if this so-called bipartisan bill hits her desk, she will sign it. Not a single Republican in the House supported it. 3 Republicans in the Senate. It was negotiated in secret.
I'm muted. I'm going to bed. Thank you for hanging out. I'm going to plan a stream in a few nights with some stuff to react to. Someone said the Shapiro Destiny conversation that I didn't react to because I wasn't making videos. I really missed so much content in the past 2 years that I could have grew this channel with. But it wasn't really hitting the same, you know? You know how it is sometimes when it's just not doing it for you? Just not doing it for you. I was going through a deep depression until exactly until Joe Biden dropped out, and then I decided to make videos again. Actually, Joe Biden saved my channel, and Tim Walz being picked solidified me returning to making videos. But yeah, have a good night.